welcome to a new era of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age comic book podcast. I am your co-host, Michael Dell. Now, normally, Mike L. would be here with us. He would be doing this introduction. He'd be introducing me. Sadly, Mike L. is no longer with us. He didn't die. He's just no longer on the show. Because, an audio recording surfaced of him saying some horribly racist things.
I knew it.
Mike L. is no longer on the show.
That's too much.
So what we're going to do is, there's only one man who can fill his shoes here, his Canadian shoes, although this man is not Canadian, Kevin Jank. Welcome to the show.
I think now I've officially replaced the Dave as the Ted McGinley of radio. Once a big star leaves, then they bring in Kevin Jank to kind of fill in the gap.
Yeah, when Larry left the LCS Hockey radio show, we brought in Kevin Jank as a new Larry. And now Mike L. leaves Flea Market Fantasy. We're bringing in Kevin Jank as new Mike L. So thank you, buddy. Because really, the show would have died. Mike L., at the end after we did last week's show, he just told me, hey, I don't think I want to do the show anymore after like December 30th. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck does that mean? So I was like, all right, well, don't worry about it. We'll just start something new here. Because let me tell you about this Mike L. character. Because, Jank, I've been doing fake radio for like 15 years, Mm-hmm. And I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the fame. I don't do it for the groupies. Do you know why I do it, Jank?
For those orphans?
That's right, for the kids. I do it for the kids, particularly the orphans. I get letters every week from clergy members, teachers, school counselors. They all say, thank you for doing the work that you do with your fake radio shows. Now, Mike L., he hates kids. He hates kids. And he particularly hates orphans. In fact, get a load of this, Jank. The other day when he told me he was quitting Flea Market Fantasy, I said, Mike L., what about the kids down at the orphanage? And he said, quote, fuck those orphans. They don't even have parents. End quote. I was shocked.
You think someone who loves Batman that much would be a little more sympathetic to orphans, but
I was shocked. So of course we can't be working with Mike L. anymore. No, Mike L. he said he got tired of doing reading the Bronze Age books, He wants to go on to do other things. So thank you, Mike L.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
He's getting a big movie deal and he's out of here.
So thank you, Mike L.
DTLs.
Yes, below the liners, for those not to know. But thank you for all your hard work there, Mike L. And we will continue Flea Market Fantasy. We will keep it going because, I enjoy it, and it's for the kids. We do it for the kids.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get him to come on as a guest someday.
I don't know. I'll be honest. Might be for the best. Now, no more Batman books, no more Superman books. Get a load of this.
I feel like if I'm going to fill in for Mike L., I got to pick a Batman or Superman once in a while.
No. That's why Mike L. said he's going to end at the end of December. I'm like, well, just quit now because I know if you're going to do it in December, we're going to read all those damn Christmas with the superhero books, and there's going to be all kind of like Superman nonsense. But get a load of this, Jank. We dodged the bullet by Mike L. leaving early. He had already talked to our buddy Bob Myers about coming on next week to do a show. And I said, wait, he already had you booked? And Bob's like, yeah. And I go, what were you going to read? Is it something you picked? And he's like, no, Mike L. picked some another iteration of Starman. Remember that nonsense?
Yeah, he kept picking them in a row. Yeah.
So good Lord. Wow, did we dodge a bullet? All the kids at the orphanage, you can hear them clapping right now that they're missing out on another Starman. So
well, they would clap, but it lights out at 8 p.m. and the nuns are pretty strict about that.
But I think the show will get better every other week. That's my prediction because the quality of books. Now, Jank, that is now your responsibility as the other co-host. You will be choosing the book at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So
I can promise there will, Starman.
So, thank God. Could you imagine if we did another Starman on this show? What are we even doing? That would make me want to quit doing the show. But no Starman. No. There's probably going to be another Batman or Superman chosen along the way at some point, but hopefully it'll be a lot less frequent than it had been in the past.
Yeah. I mean, we're both kind of Marvel guys, so
Yeah, it's going to be a hard hit for you DC fans out there. But our buddy Bob Myers will be joining us next week. So whatever book you pick, he will be joining us for that discussion.
Oh, hey.
We'll so I felt bad. I felt bad just bailing on him there, and he shouldn't have to. We need to make it up to him that the fact he almost had to read Starman. So he's willing to read whatever you choose. So Bob will be here next week. But for this week, Kevin Jank, and this new era of Flea Market Fantasy begins with Squadron Supreme, issue 1 from 1985. Squadron Supreme. Now, I had no concept of Squadron Supreme. Like, I knew it existed. I knew Mark Grunwald created it. I'm familiar with that Hyperion fella.
Oh, yeah.
The leader.
Out.
Yeah, he gets the attention of the group there. Also, he was on Marvel Avengers Alliance, my beloved former game there on Facebook or whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah, probably about the time that game was around, I think they had brought him into the mainstream Marvel universe, and he was on the Avengers for a while.
Oh, no shit. See, this is why Jank's taking over from Mike L. Jank's up to all the, he's hip with all the new happenings in comic books. He knows what's going on. I quit paying attention around 1979. So, meet Jank here. But yeah, so that's Hyperion. I knew him. But otherwise, I had no concept of what the story was behind Squadron Supreme or, what the main plot of their world is or whatever. Jank, do you have any familiarity with Squadron Supreme?
Yes. I'd never read it. I think I knew vaguely the premise. And then I definitely knew some of the later versions. Like I know in the 2000s era, like J. Michael Straczynski had started writing a different version of this. Like, I think they call it something different at first, but then it eventually became the Squadron Supreme again. It was kind of, a more darker, more adult version. And that ended up crossing over with the Ultimate Universe at a certain point. And there was a whole big kerfuffle between universes where they were battling it out.
Wow.
And like I said, Hyperion, definitely I've seen him a lot. There was this comic book called Exiles where like this group of, interdimensional people from different realities had to band together to fix realities that had kind of jumped the track and gone off course. And there was an evil Hyperion in there that was, he showed up a lot. So I knew him pretty well. I've seen some of this stuff, but really this original team in this format, I had very little experience with.
Yeah, no, the end of last week's show, Mike L said, Squadron Supreme, Marvel's answer to the Watchmen. But I would like to correct Mike L on this. Yeah, the Watchmen, is their DC's answer to Squadron Supreme. Squadron Supreme was just when it seems like I couldn't get less respect for Alan Moore and how he steals things from people. He stole everything about Watchmen from other people. I thought it was bad enough that he just stole the plot from The Outer Limits, but now he stole basically the whole premise of Watchmen from Squadron Supreme.
I don't know about that. Like,
I think so.
No. Yeah. Like, this is a different premise for sure. Like, Watchmen is definitely, really. It's a mystery book at the core, and then at the end, there's kind of the twist.
But the premise is that you deconstruct superheroes. You don't make them like the big hero deals. They're actually more like more normal people. But the big question is it right to do something immoral for the greater good? And that's basically the theme of that, and that's what we're dealing with here in Squadron Supreme. So Alan Moore just came on and said, let me take that idea, and let me take this plot from The Outer Limits, and let me take credit for it. That's what he does. Yeah. Let me take... Listen, I just became outraged when I heard about this Tom Strong nonsense, and he just ripped off my beloved Doc Savage. He just stole everything from Doc Savage. So yeah, I don't know. Not happy about it. Yeah. But anyway, that's Alan Moore. But Squadron Supreme, Mark Grunwald is the writer, the creator, and the artist here is Bob Hall. Bob Hall. Now, we've done Bob Hall in the past, and I've never been a big fan of his work, particularly his West Coast Avengers stuff's pretty lame, But here he's inked by John Beatty. And I was not familiar with John Beatty, but he did Secret Wars. He was inking Mike Zeck on Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
So we'll talk about the art later, but I actually really like Bob Hall's art here, and I think it's because of John Beatty. So we only credit to the John Beatty here, but we'll talk about that later. But all right, so the Squadron Supreme, it's a 12-issue limited series. It came out, I think, in May of '85 is when this issue was released. Again, Watchmen, like September of '86. So Alan Moore had plenty of time to steal from him. And then, but I think the difference. So what's the difference between why is Watchmen so popular and why is Squadron Supreme basically forgotten about? No one talks about Squadron Supreme unless you're a real hardcore comic book guy.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about it, and I used to have this Marvel, like, encyclopedia Marvel Universe thing. They definitely had a section in there about it, and I've definitely heard it spoken of, favorably. Maybe not quite as much as Watchmen, but it's definitely, people respect it, I think.
I think the main difference is, Squadron Supreme was written by Mark Grunwald, who is not a great writer necessarily. Right. And he wrote it for a mainstream comic book audience, like a younger crowd. And Watchmen is written for older readers and a comic book hipster crowd. And it's very literary. And Alan Moore, I don't like Alan Moore, but he is a very good writer, and he's a much better writer than Mark Grunwald by any objectifiable measure in terms of actual use of the language and characterization and plotting and stuff like Mark Grunwald's good with plotting and big picture kind of ideas and stuff like that. But in terms of not dialogue and stuff like that, not so much. So
some of these seem clunky for sure.
Yeah. So that's why Watchmen gets more respect because Alan Moore wrote it. It's better written. Also, Dave Gibbons was the artist on Watchmen. A lot of people I like Dave Gibbons. Some people love Dave Gibbons. I mean, whatever. How do you feel about it? Were you a big fan of the Dave Gibbons work on Watchmen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's my favorite artist, but there's definitely something about his work that made it seem more substantial than Bob Hall's here. You can definitely see why that was the prestige book. And this one just kind of went by the wayside, just in terms of art quality.
Yeah, Gibbons is just rock solid, storyteller and everything else. And also, he was doing some real high concept stuff in that book in terms of panel layouts and, like the mirroring of the book, the one issue he did. I can't remember which issue it was, but they did started out the same panel layouts and then by the end it mirrored it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Each page.
Very good covers of a unique kind of cover premise that went throughout the whole series.
Yeah. And Watchmen is written for creators, and this is written more for mainstream audiences. And also, Bob Hall didn't do all the art on Squadron Supreme. He did issues. What did he do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. Then Paul Ryan did issues 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and John Buscema actually did issue 7. So that's another strike against it. You had inconsistent art. Artists. So,
especially, a story like this where you don't need, nobody was anticipating this eagerly. It's not like it fit into regular continuity. So why not just take your time and have them do the whole thing and then come out with it once it's done? Yeah,
it would have definitely helped it if you had a consistent art team. Because there was also multiple inkers as well. John Beatty didn't do all the inking, so it definitely hurt it. So those are some of the reasons why Watchmen is more renowned than our beloved Squadron Supreme now. Because we love Squadron Supreme, right, Jank? We're a big fan.
Yeah, this is good.
It was pretty good. All right, so the backstory here, for those who don't know, Squadron Supreme actually started off as Squadron Sinister. Are you aware of this, Jank?
Yeah. Taking a poke at the old DC, making them villains.
Yeah, I usually like to quiz Mike L about what issue these things happen in. Do you know what issue Squadron Sinister premiered? There's no way. Yeah, there's no way you know. Avengers issue 69 in 1969.
Oh, I should have guessed that.
Yeah,
it's 1969.
Roy Thomas was the creator and Sal Buscema. And the basic premise was that Grand Master fella, he's one of those Eternals of the universe, or Elders. What is he, Elder, Eternal? Elder.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Elder. He was having a contest with Kang the Conqueror. And they were each supposed to, choose their champions to fight each other. And, Kang the Conqueror chose, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and Goliath, who was Clinton Barton at the time, old Hawkeye. And, the Grand Master chose Hyperion, Nighthawk, Dr. Spectrum, and the Wizard. And those are his champions. The Wizard.
That's why.
Wait, you cut out there. What was your joke about the wizard?
Grandmaster apparently is a big piss freak. That must be why he chose the wizard.
There you go. And the wizard, of course, has a bright yellow costume as well. So that's interesting. But now, so they were evil. They were the Squadron Sinister. These guys are evil. And like you mentioned, Roy Thomas did it as a little jab at DC and the Justice League. Hyperion is Superman. Nighthawk is Batman. Dr. Spectrum is Green Lantern. And the Wizard is, of course, the Flash. And so he did his little rib against DC and the Justice League. And after that storyline was ended, the Squadron Sinister, they popped back up a few times. And I think once with Thor maybe. And then they were in the Defenders a bunch. And a lot of the stuff that happened in this book here that we'll talk about, I guess, is a callback to the stuff happened in the Defenders issues. But eventually, Mark Grunwald says, hey, I like that Squadron Sinister idea, but why don't we make them heroes? He turns them babyface. And in his explanation, he says, Grand Master, these Squadron Supreme, the heroic version, they always existed. Grand Master, though, just made evil copies of Hyperion. And so, you know what I mean? He just did one of them deals.
Yeah, they weren't the real ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they were not the real ones. The real Squadron Supreme exists in a universe called Earth 712. What is the main Marvel universe? 616?
616.
Yeah, 616. 712. How many universes are there?
I know recently they did this whole thing. It was Secret Wars, I think. They did something to differentiate it, but it was basically Secret Wars again. But all the universes imploded in on each other, and there was just ours left. But it had like different chunks of universes on it. And I don't know, it got stupid after that. Like somehow they brought things back by having Franklin Richards basically recreate universes. It was ridiculous. So I don't know how many there are now. Yeah. It cut down, infinitely, but then they ballooned it back up again. So who knows?
Yeah, 'cause there's at least 712 apparently.
Yeah.
This is Earth 712. But yeah, they're in their own little universe.
I know like DC has that thing where I think there's 52 worlds, and then I think there's like 52 negative worlds on the other side. But
I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
So Mark Grunwald, he wants to do this limited series here, and he creates some extra characters, to again mimic the the Justice League. Now, but back then in '85, this is kind of a big deal. Nowadays, everything that comes out has a different version of the Justice League. Like The Boys, that's a ripoff of the Justice League, Yeah. And
Invincible had that.
Invincible, yeah, that's the one.
Very, very far, but
did they ever do the season 2 of that?
Not yet.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I guess it takes a long time to animate.
But back then, this was kind of a new area here. So Mark Grunwald came up with like 12 characters. That's right, 12 characters.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's too many.
I'm hoping that means they're going to kill like some of them off.
Yeah, they do apparently. I think 3 of them end up getting weeded out over the course of the book, maybe.
That's good.
At least 3. All right, so we have Amphibian, real name Kingsley Rice, and that of course is Aquaman.
Yep.
It's Aquaman.
Kingsley Rice.
Very good.
Sounds like something you would order.
I know. I love the Kingsley Rice. Kingsley Rice and broccoli. My favorite thing to eat. So then we have Arcana Jones, and she is the counterpart to Zatanna.
Yeah, sure was. Kind of the Enchantress meets Zatanna.
Yeah. That is true. And then we have Captain Hawk, James Dorr Jr., and that is Hawkman. Really going wild there. Captain Hawk is Hawkman. Right.
Yeah.
And we mentioned Dr. Spectrum, Joe Ledger, and that is Green Lantern. I like Dr. Spectrum's outfit. It's all colorful, and he's got like a mask on. But then he takes the mask off. He's not as cool. But I like when he has the mask on. Then we have the Golden Archer. Wyatt McDonald is, of course, the Green Arrow. Hyperion is Mark Milton, and that's Superman. Lady Lark, Linda Lewis, the Black Canary.
Yeah. She's even shacked up with the Golden Archer there.
Yeah.
So they're keeping that real close.
And by the way, I thought the Golden Archer is pretty much very comedian-like from the Watchmen. You know, he looks like the comedian and kind of cracking wise.
Scottish or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have Nuke Albert Gaines, and that is Firestorm.
Yep.
Power Princess.
Full half shirt.
Yeah. Power Princess Zarda Shelton. Of course, Wonder Woman, and she looks exactly like Wonder Woman. With a different outfit. Now, this one's a little weird. Tom Thumb is Thomas Thompson, and he's a short fella, so I guess he's the equivalent of the Atom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And I guess he is a scientist like the Atom, so I guess that's where that ends. He's he's just kind of a midget, basically. He's not really, he can't get like atomic sized as far as I know.
Yeah, we prefer little person, Jank. You're going to get canceled with Mike L with this audio surfaces. But yeah, like he doesn't shrink down to like a molecular size or anything. He's just a normal fella.
Just kind of Gary Coleman sized.
Yes. Maybe Gary Coleman has. Oh, how great would it be if Tom Thumb was played by Gary Coleman? I would love that. Then we have
more foot chase instead of that hover car.
Well, maybe he'd be the Wizard. Because we have the Wizard, Stanley Stewart is Flash. And then finally we have Nighthawk, Kyle Richmond, and he's Batman. And if you're familiar with the Defenders, you will be familiar with Nighthawk because there is another Nighthawk, Kyle Richmond, in the Defenders.
Yep.
But this is where I got confused on all this stuff. I don't know. So apparently they encountered the 712 Nighthawk at some point, and then he stayed in this universe to become Kyle Richmond over here, maybe? Is that what happened?
I thought I looked this up and it was confusing, but I think there actually is a Kyle Richmond from this universe.
Oh,
from the
okay.
universe somehow.
Huh.
But he may have died, and maybe that one did come over at some point. It's
like a student exchange program. They swapped them out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
I could see why this one would want to come to our universe, because he's the only one on this team who wants out. Basically, he's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. I guess, again, we've talked about Mark Grunwald plenty of times on this show. He did the episode where we reviewed Hawkeye. He wrote Hawkeye. He also, I'm sure he wrote other stuff that we've done, because I know we talked about him several times. I can't remember what.
Did he, Quasar or something like that?
That sounds about right. Yeah, Quasar. Also, Bob Hall, we mentioned, West Coast Avengers. He has 70 penciling credits at Marvel. He started out on Champions, Supervillain Team Up, did Avengers, West Coast Avengers, and also Psy-Force. He did some Psy-Force.
Oh.
One of the new universe books we've never done yet. So. Yeah, look out for that.
Finally,
all right.
I get to read a new universe.
But, yeah, we've done Bob Hall's history before on the show, though. I know West Coast Avengers, but I think he did something way earlier in his run. But anyway, go through and listen to all 164 episodes of Flea Market Fantasy, and you will find Bob Hall in there somewhere. So we're not going to do all that again.
Yeah, I do miss Mike L and his spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
All the answers to everything.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, guess what? I'm not keeping a spreadsheet. That ain't happening. So, if you want to do that, Junk, feel free. But, yeah, I'm not keeping a spreadsheet. All right, so I guess those are all the notes. Anything else about Squadron Supreme before we get going here?
No, I think we can get going.
All right, let's look at the cover. Let's look at the cover, Jank. It's pretty good. This is Bob Hall and Joe Rubinstein. You don't like this? What's
I like the logo.
You like the logo?
Yeah, I don't know. I do appreciate how they got Nighthawk kind of away from the group, kind of.
Yeah. Describe it. Paint a picture for the people.
Okay, so we got the corner box up top with a big picture of Nighthawk. Then we got a red background, and we got Nighthawks in the back in like a blue shadow, just kind of, keeping an eye on everybody. And then there's like a explosion in the middle of the thing where you have all the other heroes in the Squadron Supreme, like flying or running at the screen, like running at the reader, essentially.
Yeah. There's a lot of negative space, a lot of wasted space, I could say. So I get that. That's not the best. And
a lot of characters are kind of crammed in there. Like It's reminiscent, I guess, in certain ways of like Giant Size X-Men, where they had all the characters busting out at you, but it doesn't look nearly as good.
Yeah, because they're all smaller, and some of them do look just sketchy more than refined. Yeah. Like Arcana looks just like she was thrown in there at the last second. And, and Nuke. Yeah, so I hear you. It's not the best. But at the bottom it says in a little blue box, it says, in their own series at last, the greatest super team of any world. Any world.
Yeah. That's weird praise considering they're basically a rip off of the Justice League. You're basically saying that Justice League is the best team.
Oh, no. They're saying they're better than the Justice League. See, they're saying they're better than the Justice League. And they're it's $1.25, this book, because this book was long.
Yeah. Oh, sure was.
Yeah. I didn't know what we were getting into when I started. I'm like, wait, isn't this over yet? It's still going?
Yeah, it was quite long, but it's solid. I wasn't mad at it. And they did set up a lot in this one issue, so they had
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Not all the issues are this large. I think the rest are normal sized, I think.
Oh, okay.
So, I believe so, at least. All right, so then we open up the book. Stan Lee presents Squadron Supreme. And we see our buddy Hyperion, and he's out in outer space. And he's like, it looks like he's holding up a. We find out it's their spaceship, right? Is it their ship?
Their satellite. Yeah, I guess like the JLA, they live in a satellite up in space, but it's crashing.
Yeah, and this book is called The Utopia Principle. And I guess let's describe Hyperion for the kids in case if they've never seen him before. He's like who's that superhero from The Simpsons?
Oh, Radioactive Man.
Yeah. He kind of looks like a Radioactive Man because his outfit's red and yellow. He's got yellow boots, yellow underpants, red legs, red chest. His arms are nothing on his arms, and he's got like the nuclear symbol on his chest, like the Springfield power plant. And his middle, like his rib cage is all yellow. It almost looks like it's a metallic piece on his costume, but that would be very uncomfortable to have that on your ribs. You could never bend forward at all. But all right.
Well, he's so strong, he just fights through the pain, I guess.
I guess so. And he has like a little domino mask kind of deal, like Robin, I guess you could say. And his cape is cool because it's like offset. Like it's a yellow cape, and like on the right shoulder, there's a little thing attaching the cape. And then if you look on the back, the second attachment is like on the bottom of the left shoulder. It's not up on the right shoulder, like on top of the shoulder. Yeah. It's kind of weird, but it's a good look. Yeah. It would be very uncomfortable when he's sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
But,
you must have had a tailor who had like one leg shorter than the other.
Well, that's a good look. But, just from the splash page though, you can see John Beatty at work here, the thick lines on the inks. Like I really was impressed by John Beatty here, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, yeah. So Hyperion is trying to prevent their starship from crashing onto Earth, and you see all kind of like friction flames and stuff coming off him as he's trying to keep it up in space, and he's just struggling against it for the next few pages here, until it eventually splashes down into the ocean. And who does he meet there, Jank, when he goes into the ocean? It's Fish Boy.
Amphibian, yeah.
Yeah, little Fish Boy.
It's the only place he can be of any help, so he might as well get some. Even though I don't think he does much other than swim up and be like, "Hey, it's you, Hyperion."
He just gives him a thumbs up.
Anyway. Yeah.
He literally just swims up and gives him a thumbs up. Like, hey, good job crashing into the ocean with the ship. Good job, buddy. He's like, all right. But I guess he hit his target. That's what they were aiming for, to crash down in the ocean.
Yeah. He was trying to push it in the right direction so it didn't land on land and murder everyone, I guess.
But here's my question. Would it really be that heavy? It's up in space?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know how that works.
Aren't space stations heavy? They're made of metal.
I guess, but like if you're in space, I don't know. I don't know how gravity works.
I think if you're outside of the gravity of the planet itself, you can just kind of stay there indefinitely. There's nothing pulling you which way or the other.
Yeah, but because it got sucked into the Earth's gravity, then it became real heavy.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
On fire.
And then the Wizard shows up, and Doctor Spectrum looks cool here because his outfit it's like all blue at the top and then yellow and red and green. He's very colorful. It's Doctor Spectrum.
Yeah. I like that they mentioned he's got his powers are golden, but it really looks like puke green. It doesn't look very golden.
Yeah, kind of like pea soup is green. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you think they said the golden bit just as like a jab at Green Lantern, right? Because like, yellow and gold was always his Achilles heel.
Yeah.
So I think that was what they're doing there. But yeah, they did paint it green though, which is odd.
Very strange.
So now they got to like tow the ship to to land, and you have Hyperion, and Doctor Spectrum like makes a giant lasso out of his powers there, and he wraps up the ship, and Hyperion and him are pulling from one end, and Whizzer and Fishboy are pushing from the other end.
Yeah, Whizzer's acting like a propeller by like pushing his legs real fast. I don't know what the fuck Amphibian's doing. Still nothing, it looks like. Just kind of holding it up.
It's just trying to act like he's doing something.
Yeah.
So they finally get the ship back on land here. Now, I was confused, Jank. I'm going to come right out and say this. Like, should we know what's happening? Like, I understand what's all going on in the story. You understand, but like, should we? At any point, is there a narrator box anywhere that says all of the events before this happened in Defenders issue 112 to 115, or?
They don't actually put that in there. I mean, they do have they explain everything that happened, and they're like, I guess this is good enough, but they don't mention the specific issues. So,
and I meant to look this up, and I forgot. But I think it was Defenders issue 112 to 115 was when this basic premise that we'll be dealing with later on takes place. But then I almost get the impression that there was something else after that before this. Was there a graphic novel? There wasn't a graphic novel, right? Squadron Supreme graphic novel.
No, I think I think even that cover box was like, finally, in their own book. Like, I thought this was the first time they actually had their own comic of any kind.
So it was just weird that they never put a note in, like, hey, if you want to see what happened before here, read Defenders. But yeah, it never really happened. All right. So the Squadron Supreme fellas, they're on the land now, and they're like, hey, we got to get back to our. They're going to leave their ship there until they can come back and fix it or whatever. And they say, we got to go have our aren't they going to go to a meeting with the rest of the members? Because this is only half the team.
No, this is a third of the team.
This is a very big team.
Yeah.
And so they all go running off and to have their meeting. Now we get to some more members of the team. Oh yeah, I forgot about this sequence of events entirely. Explain what happens here, Jay.
So we got Power Princess, we got Nuke, we got Arcana, and Captain Hawk. They're just kind of flying around, and they see a bunch of cars piled up, and it looks like people are robbing this big truck full of food. So they swoop down and are like, hey, quit stealing shit. And the people are just like, hey, like, we're hungry. Like, nobody gives us any food anymore. So, and these gangs keep coming in to take all the food that we did have. So we're just going to take this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I guess you got a good point. If I was hungry, I'd do whatever it took too. Go about your business, thief.
Yeah. It's like, all right. Go ahead, keep stealing.
Yep. We're going to look the other way now.
All right. So now we get our first hint that something is amiss here on this planet, this Earth. Because the first sequence was just them saving their ship. We don't know why they have to save their ship. Also, all their costumes are like ripped and torn and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, they've seen some shit, this Squadron Supreme. And now we find
when that stuff happened.
Yeah, and now we find out that the world is like kind of having some issues. And then the military shows up and they start shooting at them. Or they're shooting at the looters, I guess. And Power Princess and Nuke like do a number on the military guys and knock them out. And then they say, all right, go to our meeting. And then they go to the meeting.
Yep.
One group left. We still have one group left.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fucking characters.
It really is.
All right, so now we hop into, like, they're not in space right now. They're just flying against the night sky. And it's Lady Lark, Golden Archer, Nighthawk, and Tom Thumb. They're in this little flying car. It looks like one of the Fantastic Four cars that they used to fly around in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I guess Tom Thumb is piloting from the back seat. And they come
That's really all
upon...
he's good for, apparently. That's all he does in this entire book is when he's just like moving around, he's got that little car.
Well, his story gets pretty interesting later on in the run. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Like, in this book, because,
No. Later on in the run, yeah. It's a spoiler alert. It doesn't end well. Right?
Ooh.
So, where do they come upon like a gas plant, right? Like a natural gas plant.
Yep.
And it's on fire. So they're like, hey, we got to take care of this, you know, because we're superheroes.
Tom Thumb can immediately tell just by looking at it. This wasn't arson.
Yeah. That's right.
This pattern means it's not arson.
Yeah, not the work of arsonists, Archer. Judging from the pattern of damage, a natural gas main surged, fed too much gas through the lines, and caused a series of explosions. And he can tell that by looking at a giant blazing inferno.
Yeah.
It's just...
He's good. Gary Coleman couldn't do that.
Tom Thumb is also jacked. Even though he's a little guy, he's very strong, you know?
Sure is.
Yeah.
I would probably...
Yeah, he's got Tom Thumb, we should describe him. He's like an old man. He looks old because he's got a bunch of gray hair, long gray hair, and also a big gray beard. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like a Santa Claus, you could say, in a way. Like a little Santa Claus.
Yeah, no mustache, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, no mustache. So he's kind of like a lion. He's got the mane around his face.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect, yep.
Yeah. And, I guess we shouldn't be describing these people because no one knows who the fuck the Squadron Supreme are. But,
if you know what character they're based on, you're halfway there.
Yeah, pretty much. This is going to come as a surprise, but Golden Archer, his costume is yellow.
Yeah. Wow.
Lady Lark is also like golden and yellowy. And Nighthawk, his outfit here is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, this apparently we find out later on is not his actual outfit.
Yeah.
This is some outfit that the bad guys made him wear.
Yeah. But I like, again, I just got to point out the Bob Hall art here. Like, I really like the, every panel, he's doing something interesting. Like, he's tilting the perspective or he's doing something just to jazz it up. And, like, when they first arrive at the fire, I don't know these pages aren't numbered here, so I have no idea what page this is. But there's a panel at the top of, Golden Archer and Lady Lark. They're like tilted in the right. And then you have Nighthawk and Tom Thumb over on the left. And then you see Tom Thumb flying, and then Nighthawk jumps out of the little car, and look, he's like breaking the panel wall into the next panel as he's leaping down there. So he's doing some cool stuff here. And then one panel
not so much with the
silhouettes.
Oh yeah, not so much with his backgrounds where they're mostly one color.
Yeah, he is skipping on the backgrounds. But again, if I ever do a comic book, I keep saying I'm going to, and I keep trying. I am skipping the hell out of the backgrounds. Don't worry about it. I'm doing that. So anyway, these four team members here, they prevent the well, no, it still blows up, right? But at least
they close the valve, so at least that it's not as bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad. And there's some drama whether Tom Thumb survived in time. But yeah, he shows up and he's like, hey, I made it. Hey, Lady Lark, why don't you drive for a while? I'm tired. So she drives and she goes flying back to the. Wow, I'm looking at this one picture here. The fire. It almost looks like a weird signature. Do you see the panel? Top left panel, it's just a shot of the car flying off in the distance and there's some flame. And then the next panel on the right, it's like the wilderness and the red sun of where the meeting is located. Are you on that page?
Yes.
Like look at that flame in the top left panel there. It almost looks like the bottom there. It's like a weird signature, but I guess he's just putting in, those are just like stitches of the building that were still burning.
Yeah, that must be what that is. Yeah.
I was confused by that for a second.
Otherwise, there's some kind of like Asian.
Yeah. I was like, what is going on here? All right, so they have to go to the big meeting. It's in their secret headquarters in where is this? Again, this isn't on our planet, so there's a bunch of wacky names. And
stuff. Yeah, they're all very weird.
A certain mountain in northern Moorland. Northern Moorland. Way better than southern Moorland. But,
yeah, if you're just gonna make up shit, I can't orient myself based off of where more land is.
yeah.
Why'd bother?
So they show up and it's got like the secret headquarters inside a mountain, I guess. And so all the Squadron Supreme are now assembled in this room, and of course they're sitting around a table like you do when you're a superhero team, and they're having a big meeting. And Jank, what's the big? Look at that fucking fish boy. He doesn't even put shoes on. Come on, Aaron.
Fucking Matt Riddle over here.
Look at that with their wrestling reference. I love it. All right, so Jank, tell the kids what they're talking about here at this big meeting. Hyperion says we got to have a big meeting, and he says, "Hey, masks off for the meeting."
Yeah, no masks at the table.
Masks off for the meeting.
Yeah, so Hyperion basically launches into, I guess our trip across the country now has confirmed everything we thought, and the country is all messed up.
Yeah,
and it's pretty much our fault, or at least part of it's our fault. Everything's gone to hell. And, the American people are all pissed and pretty much the whole world is too because of what the Overmind did.
The Overmind. He's the big villain here in all this. And again, this goes back to those Defenders issues. Do you have any history with the Overmind, Jank?
Nope.
Yeah, I never heard of him either. But I guess he actually joined the Defenders then at some point. I had no idea. But I guess he's like the big bad guy in this Earth 712 universe, and he just has super powerful, mind powers, like a Charles Xavier kind of fella. And he basically took control of Nighthawk, and he became president in that universe. And then he used Nighthawk to basically take over the world, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
he took over the rest of the Squadron Supreme at this point.
Yeah.
And basically they took over the entire planet and just made them all evil.
Yeah. So he like mind controlled all the Squadron Supreme, took over the planet, and then the Squadron Supreme, because of the Defenders showing up, they were able to knock them out. I don't know, they dropped flower pots on their heads or something, and they all woke up, and then they fought back against Overmind. They defeated Overmind, but now they have to deal with all the consequences of all the things that happen. Because now everyone thinks the Squadron Supreme, they're all evil, You're kind of evil pricks. They're like, no, we were brainwashed back then, We didn't know what we were doing.
It's weird that they don't even try to say that, though. Like, in their big press conference later, they don't mention that. Hey, we were brainwashed, like this Overmind guy. I mean, I could see people in the public maybe not believing it, but you should at least try. Otherwise, they're just going to be like, you guys are assholes.
Hey, you bring up the press conference at the end. What if it was a Fateful Findings press conference?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's just killing themselves.
It's an obscure movie reference for you, Fateful Findings. Neil Breen, everyone should go watch it immediately. But, so Squadron Supreme, they're having this meeting, they're like, we gotta do something here. And, so what does Hyperion decide to do, Jank?
Well, I think originally, like, it's Power Princess who brings it up, like, oh, my people, we used to live here on Earth, but then, once mankind came up with nuclear power, we were like, uh-oh, they're probably going to murder us with this, so let's get out of here. So they all left the planet except for her.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah. She wanted to be the envoy to, humanity and try to work with them and get them to, embrace this utopia that she came from. And, she was like, oh, as soon as I got, around people, I was like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, people are the worst. Yeah. Can't trust people. People are the worst.
Like, even you guys, even the rest of the squadron, I was like, nope, this ain't for you. But then Hyperion's like, hey, maybe that is a good idea. Like, my parents were always telling me not to do things like, hey, you probably shouldn't take over the world. And, don't, force people to do what you want them to do just because you have more power than them. He's like, maybe I'm starting to learn that was a bunch of crap.
Yeah, he thinks they should be doing more. Like, instead of, fighting these supervillains and stuff, they should be helping the person on the street, just helping everybody. Like, focusing on building a great society instead of, let's fight hunger. Let's fight injustice. Let's fight,
then somehow even cure death.
Yeah, that was the last thing he said. Maybe with all our powers, we can cure death. Oh, that's pretty good. We can cure death.
Too bad. Yeah.
So basically what Hyperion is saying is we're going to take over the world now as good guys. It's going to be a benevolent tyranny, you know? We're going to be really good guys, but we're going to make a utopia here on Earth as long as you do what we tell you to do, basically. Right? Like, you know. And
they're doing this now because we don't think the world can get any worse than it is right now. So
yeah.
we might as well try to just make it a good place now, our way.
So Nighthawk, though, you know, he steps up and he says, "Hey, I don't know about that because you're basically taking away a man's free will. If you have all this power and you're just you know, controlling everyone's lives, even though you're saying you're doing it for the better, at some point it may get corrupted." Because, you know, future generations will come in and they'll just take over, and who knows if they'll be as benevolent as you fellas and we are, you know. So we should not go down this road. We have to ensure that humanity has free will and that they can do what they want for better or worse. So that's a great premise, you know. Again, the morality of an immoral act. Is it worth it to do this for the greater good, even though it may not be, you know, the best idea? So Nighthawk is standing strong.
If people don't want to do this, so you're going to force them, and Hyperion doesn't really answer.
Yeah, I think it's implied that he's just going to smack the shit out of them until they comply. Yeah. Just bang, bang, bang. So Nighthawk says, "Hey, we can't do this. I don't have any part of this." And Hyperion says, "I think we need to do this. It's the only way we're going to save our world." And he says, "All right, let's put it to a vote." You know, so let's all vote.
I like that. Nighthawk's like, "Oh, the few elite people voting on the fate of the world. Has it really come to this?"
Hello,
you know,
hello.
You know, the regular world. We're already there.
Yes.
That was Hyperion instead of Prescott Bush, but
now we're going to go into Obedient Worker, another one of my fake radio shows. That's a branch off into that. But yes, they're having their Bilderberg meeting here, and they're all voting on what they should do. And so the vote comes back 10 votes for Hyperion's plan, 2 votes against. The 2 votes against, Nighthawk and Fishboy. Fishboy says, "I don't want any part of it." Right? But then Hyperion said, "Hey, Fishboy, even though you know, we won the vote, so will you side with us? Will you come join us? Because and he said, "Yeah, all right, I'll join you." But Nighthawk says, "Nope, I want no part of it."
Boy, we got pictures of you fucking a fish. If you don't want these released to the public.
We won. Yeah, so but Nighthawk says, "I want no part of this. I've never fucked a fish, so you have no pictures of me. I'm leaving. I'm out of here." And he just packs up and leaves, right?
Kind of principle, this Nighthawk. Like him.
Not like Batman. That son of a bitch.
Batman would totally do this.
He's an evil 1%er, not a man of the people like Bane. All right, so after they have their vote, then what happens here?
I think they come up with the idea that, hey, we should probably, if we're going to do this and actually become like the rulers of the planet, we better be straightforward with people and tell them our actual identities and come out without our masks on and shit. So that they can trust us. Yeah.
Masks off.
At the table. And everywhere now.
Yeah, everywhere.
And
so now,
like, tomorrow we're going to come out to everybody, so go home and make yourself look nice. Like, fix up your costumes.
Yeah, because their costumes are all tattered and everything. From whatever battle they had that we still don't know about. But anyway, and also go home and like get your house in order. You got to talk to your family members, you know, and tell them, hey, our secret identities are over now. You know, like from now on, honey, people are going to know that the Wizard is sleeping with you. You know, that's what's going to happen. So we need to tell people this. So I
in bed.
I like this sequence though, because they show them all go back to their loved ones to talk to them. So first up, we have Hyperion going back to meet his Lois Lane, and he comes in through the window of like their apartment or her apartment. I guess they don't live together. And he flies in the window, and she just shoots him. She just opens.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty much in a post-apocalypse right now. So yeah. Someone comes in your window, you're just firing.
Yeah, she just opened up with a machine gun blast. And he's like, hey, Lois Lane or whatever your name is. Hey, it's just me. Did they say what her name is? It's got to be something here.
They did. It was something that had the same in letters.
Lonnie.
I think.
Lonnie. Lonnie. And he's like, hey, it's me, you know? And she's like, oh, hey, Hyperion, where you been? And he's like, hey, I gotta break it to you there, honey. When we used to work together, I'm actually Mark Milton, your coworker. And she goes, yeah, I kind of knew that. You just wear glasses. That's like the only difference.
Now you wear a little domino mask. It's like glasses, so.
and he says, well, hey there, Lonnie. It's not you, it's me. I got to break up with you.
Yeah, he's like, somehow I know that our bodies are not physically compatible enough to have children, so there's really no future here. Like, he must have been out banging a lot of like earth hookers and realized that he couldn't knock any of them up.
But this is kind of interesting though. Again, this is 1985, and there were always these jokes about if Superman had sex with Lois Lane, he'd kill her, when he had the sex with her. And so Mark Grunwald though, he's taking this angle when he's talking about this, and he's like, this isn't going to work. So let's just call it quits now. It's been fun, but I got to go.
I like the shortness of her response, just like, don't say anything else, just get out.
Yeah, just get the fuck out of here, Hyperion. And so he just flies out the window there, and she's kind of all sad. And now we see the Wizard, and he runs back to his house, and his family is hiding in like a what do they call that? A
panic room.
Panic room, yeah. It's like in the basement behind some canned beans. They open it up, and look, his family, his wife and his son, they're hiding in a panic room. Mm-hmm. And Wizard looks much older than his wife.
Yeah. I kind of got the impression maybe it's like a Quicksilver thing where he's just gray prematurely because of his powers.
All right. Could be. Yeah. And, but again, I like this art. I don't know. Like, look at that final panel of him and the wife there in the bottom. I like that. That's a nice little line work there. I'm hugging. Then we have Dr. Spectrum.
Not terrible.
And Dr. Spectrum, he lives in like a trailer.
Yeah. But apparently a nice trailer because he's getting ladies in there all the time.
Yes, that's right. I forgot. This Dr. Spectrum, he's not a medical doctor. They just call him doctor because he's always getting it done, So he's the doctor.
He's the love doctor.
So he gets into his trailer there, his double wide, and he says, all right, I better start calling all my ladies and tell them what's going on. And so he opens up his little black book and he just starts calling all his former lovers. And he's like, hey, my test came back. And I'm pausing. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, hey, I'm Dr. Spectrum or whatever. And he uses his power to like make the phones work because, hey, I could use that because Comcast still hasn't fixed my phones. But Dr. Spectrum, so he's calling all his ladies to tell them, hey, I'm Dr. Spectrum. So that's something.
They're all wowed by the fact that their phones now work too because apparently no one's phones work. He's like, how does it feel to be the only one with a working phone? Aren't you a lucky girl? Like, this is weird.
And now we see Captain Hawk, and he flies up to his parents' house, and his mom opens the door with a crossbow. She has a crossbow.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
She's prepared for zombies, apparently.
And while he was gone, his father passed away. He didn't even know. So that's heart-wrenching. And apparently his father was also a superhero, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he left him
kind of a Captain America type, it looks like.
Yeah, he has like the shield on his chest there, like a thing, and stars and stripes and whatnot. But the mom seems like a nice lady, and the dad left him a note and a costume. So I don't know, maybe we'll see him wear this. I'm guessing we'll see him wearing this costume. Your father, he's the American Eagle. That was his father. Yeah, there it is when he signs it.
Apparently they didn't get along very well.
Yeah.
And they never got a chance to really make it right, but his dad did leave him this costume, I guess, as like a peacemaking move.
And he signs this death letter to his son, your father, the American Eagle. Like he had to put in his branding at the end. And you just say, love dad. Your father.
Brand first, Yeah. Gotta get that name out there. Yeah, but it's surprising, like they really packed in a lot of information on just one single page here.
Yeah, that's what we're getting.
Get a good feel for this guy's backstory.
Yeah, each page is just one page. We're getting this backstory. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I particularly like this next one, Jank. Explain this next one to the people.
Oh boy. So we get Power Princess. She goes home to her, fancy condo, and there's an old man in a wheelchair there, who I guess is basically her Steve Trevor, who was the first man she met when she came to the human world back in like 40s or whatnot.
Yeah.
He was the sole survivor of a sinking ship. I guess he was in the Navy, and she just latched onto him at that point, and they've been together ever since.
But she doesn't age.
Romantically.
Yeah,
no,
she doesn't age.
No.
So she still looks like a smoking hot 28-year-old Wonder Woman, prime Linda Carter. And, and he looks like,
this guy's like Larry Flint / the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, he's very old, like in his 80s. And she's still in love with him. It's kind of sweet, Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be gross if they ever try to make love, but sweet.
Maybe she's into it. Maybe she's into it.
Yeah.
You don't know. But I like that, again, this is something in 1985, I'm sure people were joking about, how come Wonder Woman doesn't age, but but here you go. Mark Grunwald, he says this is what it would be like. Again, he's showing heroes in like a real world environment. Like this is reality for these heroes. So
yeah,
I like it.
Very effective.
Now this next one, Fish Boy.
Oh God.
Yeah, our buddy Amphibian, he just goes down under the sea there, and he's just talking to a bunch of dolphins. That's all he does. He doesn't.
This did make me laugh when they ask him, how goes life in the world of air? And he says, badly, old friend. I'd rather not even talk about it. And then they say, we probably wouldn't understand anyway. They're like, they know their limitations. Like, we're just dumb dolphins. What the fuck do we know? But somehow we can still talk to you.
But then,
I just don't know what the fuck you're ever saying.
Then he's swimming with the dolphins, and he says, what's new around here? Has Mama Fleur, Flrrr, had her child yet? And it's translated from dolphin, I guess. And then the dolphin says, yes, she has. Yes, she has. I composed this song about it. Want to hear it? And then Fish Boy says, sure I do, Helly. Stop tickling me and sing already. So yeah, I think you are spot on about the photos of him having sex with fish.
Yeah.
Because clearly he is.
I think he's the father of this dolphin baby.
Mama Fleur.
Yep.
All right, well, let's put that ugliness behind us. Next we go to Franklin Town, New Babylon. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. That means. Yeah. And it's Lady Lark and Golden Archer. Now this is where they live in like the same apartment building, but in different apartments.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
because
she
different
says,
rooms.
I'm going to go check out my place. Don't go anywhere without me. Because he says shortly, so I was wrong, our flats have been ransacked. Our flats, plural. And she says, I'm going to check out my place. So I guess she like lives down the hall.
Yeah, that is strange. Like apparently he must be very afraid of commitment. Like, let's keep our own places. So I don't have to have you here all the time.
So she goes back to her apartment.
Maybe like they were both just living there, and then he was like a superhero, and then he's like, hey, you want to be my sidekick? Lady I've just barely met.
And she's like, I'm a superhero too. So it turns out, like, she goes back to her apartment, she finds all her stuff broken, like her records and everything. She used to be a performing artist, a singer, and like she has the same powers as Black Canary. She can scream real loud and everything. And she's looking back at that. Now we go back to Golden Archer's apartment, and he's looking through all his old stuff, and he finds a dead hobo.
Yeah. Some guy was burgling the place and died somehow.
Yeah, I guess he was living there like a drug addict squatting in his apartment or whatever, and he just ended up dying. And so Golden Archer.
About this.
Yeah. Better not tell Lady Lark about the dead body behind the couch. We'll just go about our business. We'll just pretend it's not there.
What's that smell? Oh, I had some bad meat. The old Dahmer excuse.
All right, so then we see our buddy Nuke. He shows up at the hospital to visit his parents. Both his parents are dying of cancer.
Yeah.
In the hospital.
And their son's name is Nuke.
Yeah. They don't know he's Nuke, though. Right? Do they know he's Nuke? Or,
No. He's keeping that from them. Even, I think he's going there to tell them, but he can't because they're like so, deep in chemotherapy. He's like, I can't burden them with this now.
Yeah, because of course he gave them the cancer.
Yeah,
because
clearly.
He's so radioactive. He gave them the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's tragic. Again, another pretty interesting thing there by Mike Grunwald. Now, next up, we have Arcana, and she shows up to her family. She goes out into the woods somewhere, and she just does some hocus pocus, and like a door opens up in the woods, and it's like her house was disguised. You know, it was all magically hidden in the woods. And she has a husband and 3 kids and a cat, a black cat.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan that she had a little black cat. And so she's there with the family and talking to the family. And she's like, hey, kids, don't you have something to do? Because Mommy and Daddy need to talk. We need to talk for a minute. Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, she's going to tell them about her, that we're going public tomorrow and telling everyone our secret identities. Nope. It's just, let's get down to making some sweet football.
Yeah, let's get to it. And now here's the other weird thing is look at that last panel. They're on their couch starting to make out and everything. And that cat is still watching them. See the cat? He's in the ground.
Yep.
He's a little freak, that cat. But, all right.
It's
now
like a hocus pocus type situation where that cat was once a child or like a little boy and got turned into a cat, and now it's just like curving out at everyone.
It seems like the cat is is some sort of a magical cat or something, because they say like the one Crowley is the name of the cat, Aleister Crowley, because the dad says, "Oh, sweetie, you're here. Crowley said he felt you near."
Yeah,
and I think the cat is Crowley, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
So I don't know, or maybe one of the kids is Crowley, but I assume the cat was Crowley. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, next up is Tom Thumb, and he flies back to their ship. So it's still on water. I thought they pulled it onto land.
Yeah, they put it. Yeah, that's weird. I think they messed up there because they definitely showed it on land earlier.
Interesting. So he goes into the ship. Now he loves the ship. It's kind of like an AI, like an intelligent ship, right? And and he like invented it and created it and everything. So it's like his only love in the world is the ship. So he's
he's like, your lover boy is here to fix you.
And he's holding up a screwdriver when he says it. So who knows where he's going to put that screwdriver. Now we go to Nighthawk. And Nighthawk's driving, I guess he's like in a tunnel. Is that like the tunnel to the Batcave there? And he's driving in.
That apparently the Squadron had built for him years before, but they forgot about it. I guess they must see, he says that they used to use his Batcave essentially, or whatever he calls it, as their headquarters in the early days. And then they just moved on to wherever else, like the satellite or whatnot.
So he goes up to his study and he looks out the window there. Outside, there's just fences with barbed wire around the property, and there's just a bunch of people protesting it with signs that say "Warmonger, traitor, resign, Bane was right," that sort of stuff. And so he gets sad, and he calls his buddy. I don't know who's his buddy. Like, he's the president, so keep that in mind. And he calls like one of his chief of staff or something. Is that who he is? I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah, someone in his cabinet who's basically giving him the rundown of, this guy quit, this guy's dead.
Yeah.
I pulled the fateful findings and hung himself.
So then he takes off the costume that he was wearing, because like Overmind made that costume for him. And it was pretty cool. It was like all black with like a yellow hawk on the chest and hawk wings on the face or something. And then he puts on his,
like the old Captain Britain costume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it does. Yeah, I never thought of that, but yeah, it does. And then he puts on his old school Nighthawk costume, and this costume's pretty cool too, actually, when you think about it.
I like it.
It's kind of a variation of a Batman outfit. The cape is very arched, kind of like the
Todd McFarlane one.
Yeah, McFarlane. I was thinking of the other guy who also drew him like that. Breyfogle. Norman Breyfogle, is that his name? Gray? What was his? I don't know. We need Mike L here for the Batman stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's a cool outfit. And then he gets into his little costume there, and then Hyperion's knocking on the window. Knock, knock. And he comes in, and they have a talk. And what's the gist of this conversation, Jack? Do you?
I think he's just trying to be like, hey, we're doing this for the right reasons, and Nighthawk's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But he's like, Hyperion's still telling him like, hey, you're still my best friend, like, you're the person I'm proudest to call a friend. And then he's basically like, hey, I know you're having your big press conference tomorrow. Let's make it a joint press conference. And it's pretty much not giving Nighthawk any, way out. It's basically, yeah, we're coming on your press conference, so.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
So Nighthawk now says, all right, I need a plan here. I got to stop Hyperion. And he goes down into the vault of his house there, and he has Argonite, which is a glowing green rock.
What could that be alluding to?
Yeah, so it's the old kryptonite. And he says, I'm going to make this Argonite into a bullet, and I'm going to shoot Hyperion.
This guy has no problem with guns, unlike Batman, apparently.
But that's pretty cool. 1985, because the whole shooting Superman with a bullet of kryptonite, I read up on this, Jank, because I was like, is this the first time this ever happened? Because it seems kind of weird. So it happened a few times after this, like in the Superman. But the first idea of shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet was in a letters page in the 1960s. Someone wrote in with that idea. And
they did it later on.
Well, they did it a couple times actually.
Okay.
They did it in the 60s when Kurt Swan was drawn. They had a guy with a machine gun that had a bunch of kryptonite bullets, but when they broke it, they emitted a kryptonite gas. So it's kind of different but the same. And then it happened once in Superboy in the 70s when he had lost his powers, and while he had lost his powers, he had the powers of a wolf apparently. He could turn into a wolf. And while he had the powers of a wolf, he got shot with a bullet. And they didn't know it was a kryptonite bullet until they pulled it out of him. And they said, good thing you lost your powers. You'd be dead right now. I don't know if that made sense or not, but I did.
Instead, you're just bleeding out from getting shot.
Yeah. But originally, back in the 60s, when someone wrote into the letters page about it, Mort Weisinger, I think, was the editor and writer at the time, but he had an assistant that did the stuff, and he answered it. And he said, actually, a kryptonite bullet would not harm Superman in the way people think, because kryptonite is not indestructible, and his body is. So when that bullet hits his body, it would just shatter. Now, he would get weak by the fragments of kryptonite around the ground and everything, like it being near his body, but it would not pierce his body and go inside him. Now, that changed over the years, though, because then John Byrne did it, I guess, when did he take over Superman? 86? Around there?
Right after Crisis, yeah.
He had somebody shoot Superman. Was it Bloodshot or Bloodsport? What's that guy? I don't know. Something like that.
Deadshot?
Yeah, I don't know if it was him, though. I think it was something else. But anyway, because I know in the Suicide Squad trailer recently, they had Idris Elba.
Idris Elba character? Yeah. I think he was Bloodsport, yeah.
Yeah, Bloodsport then. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, he shoots him with it. And then I think later on, Mentalo shoots him with it. It's been done several times. But in 1985, though, for Mark Grunwald to come up with this, it's pretty good. Again.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So,
it's an obvious idea. I don't know why they've done it a million times before that, because how many times can you just have him be near a rock and be like, or you're like, what happens if it gets inside of him? That's gotta be even worse.
So Kyle Richmond shows up at the press conference the next day, and he's packing heat. He's got the gun with him, with the kryptonite bullet.
Oh, and he looks the president. He outranks them all.
Yeah. And they're drawing him very much like Bob Hall, very Kennedy-esque, drawing him here.
Yeah.
And,
the hair especially.
Yeah. So he starts his press conference, showing people around the world watching this press conference. And then Hyperion comes up, and he takes the podium, and Nighthawk's behind him there, and he's got this gun. He pulls out the gun. So Hyperion's giving a speech to the people of the world saying, hey, citizens of America and all nations, do not panic. We, the Squadron Supreme of America, hereby assume supreme authority in all matters pertaining to world security and survival for the duration of this critical transition back to peacetime. Although the Squadron itself was duped into participating in some of the activities initiated by the current administration This guy back here, he's terrible. We were instrumental in bringing the government to its senses. You may recall that I myself was labeled a traitor by the current administration for refusing to support its policies. But that is all behind us now. What is ahead is the difficult task of reconstructing our society, our world, to what it was before. But we cannot stop there. We must prevent a situation like the one we're in from ever occurring again. In exchange for your utmost cooperation and support, we, the Squadron, hereby vow to you to solve all the problems known to men of all nations, not just those brought on in recent days, but those known to man since time immemorial. Wow, what a speech this guy's given. You know?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, fuck.
Got my vote.
We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. 1 year, Jank. Going 1 year.
Yeah, and it's not like they have a bunch of solutions in their back pocket. They're just going to come up with these things now.
Yeah,
Like,
they're just going to
okay,
strong arm things. If we cannot do it in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. Sure you will.
Yeah, that never happened.
We are the world's best hope. As a gesture of the openness and sincerity by which we make this pledge to you, we would like to shed the masks behind which we have hidden our faces from you in days gone by. And they all take off their masks, and then the final panel is just Hyperion and all the heroes there on the steps of the is this the White House steps? I don't know where they're. Whatever the fuck.
Maybe
the Capitol? I don't know. I just see steps and I don't know. Anyway, he says, with this act, I hope you will all join us in ushering in a new age of trust and friendship and unity for all the earth. So everyone's happy. They all have their masks off. They're all celebrating. But while he's giving his speech, while Hyperion's giving his speech, Nighthawk has a gun out against his back, and he's going to shoot him with the kryptonite bullet. But he can't do it, Jank. He just can't.
No. They're too good at friends.
So on this last panel, we just see everyone else is happy and celebrating. Nighthawk has his head down. He's looking down, and he's thinking to himself, there's got to be another way. I will find another way. And then it says, next issue, the beginning. So there we go. There it is, Squadron Supreme. I liked it a lot.
Hell of a way to kick off a comic. Like, yeah, I'm
liked
in.
It a lot.
I don't know that I'll ever have time to finish this, but I would like to, because I'd like to.
Yeah, I probably will keep reading it. Because I want to see how this goes. But again, Mark Grunwald, hats off, buddy. Great job here with this idea, this whole premise that is later stolen by Alan Moore. I love it. You know it's good. Alan Moore stole it. So, all right. But, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Try and defend Alan Moore. Go ahead. You're going. Feel free.
I don't know that he stole this. Like, even then, Prometheus wasn't trying to, take over the world. He was just trying to unite the world.
Yeah. Trying to build like a
by fear of a different
enemy.
world. Yeah, but he wasn't going to be in charge of it.
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah.
So there you go. Squadron Supreme. What else? I really like the art. Again, Bob Hall. I really like, because it was his John Beatty's inking that I really liked. Really thick lines, a lot of black. Yeah. And the art itself, it seemed kind of sketchy at times, like loose, but I liked it. It had a nice feel to it. So I really enjoyed it. Now, again, the art is not consistent throughout the whole run, but this first issue, really liked it. How did you feel about Bob Hall's work here, Jack?
It's by no means terrible. Some of it was pretty good. Usually when they did Kyle Richmond, he always looked pretty good. In general, I feel like the art was the weak point of this comic for me. Like, if it had been, a little bit better, like I think this thing would have caught on a lot more than it did. When you get like a David Mazzucchelli in there or something,
well, yeah, obviously.
People will remember this so much better.
I would agree. I think if the art was even this quality throughout the whole thing, it would have been remembered more. But just the fact that we had so many different artists and 3 artists, multiple inkers, that's the problem. Because I'm guessing you don't get Watchmen had a feel to it. You knew it had a feel, it had a tone, and this doesn't really have that. But I enjoyed it. But again, yeah, it's not like elite level comic book art. You know what I mean?
No, it's the base level you would get in the 80s. Like, which is fine. It's not terrible. It's not memorable, I'd say.
It's not iconic in any way, like
No.
Gibbons or whatever. So, all right. But I still like it. Now, Mark Grunwald here, I think the writing, again, the premise is extraordinary. The concept is extraordinary. Normally Grunwald's really bad with dialogue and stuff, but I think he's pretty good here. Like, there weren't any, it's not too bad. The biggest flaw this book has is that middle chunk where they're explaining, everything that happened, how they got here with the because it's just blatant exposition. And again, everyone in that room that Hyperion is talking to knows this stuff. You can't have him explaining to the rest of them what happened. They all know what happened. Dialogue is character to character, not character to reader. And so that's very bad. That's very bad.
Yeah, there's probably a different way to frame that where you could have just had like some kind of a flashback at the beginning just to catch readers up rather than have him be telling the story to them that they already know.
It's very bad. But if you can overlook that, I actually really like this. Now, there are a lot of characters, and there's one other thing, our buddy Miles Watson is working on another book, and he has a bunch of characters, not a bunch, not as many as this, but he has about 5 or 6 characters on his ship there, and we didn't get a sense of who those characters are right away. So I told him, hey, here's what you want to do. Is in comic books, this is what they do. Whenever there's a team and they want to introduce the team, they have them working as a team to solve a problem. Like this ship is going to sink or they're under attack or something, so they all have to work together, and we get to see them use their individual powers and their traits so you get a little introduction to them, so you get a sense of who those characters are. And that's exactly what Grunwald does here, and he does it 3 separate times. It's because there's so many characters. So normally you wouldn't want to do it 3 separate times because it does get repetitive and you see what they're doing. But he kind of had to do it here in a way when you're dealing with 12 characters.
Yes. And it does serve the dual purpose of showing how shitty America has become because everything's falling apart. So you get to see different, aspects of.
Now, the counter to that is you could probably maybe get by with 8 characters or maybe 6.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it probably leaves them some room to, like we talked about, kill some characters off, and also maybe have some flip sides. Like, some people might go over to Nighthawk's side. Then you got a Civil War type thing going on.
Yeah, and it is a 12-issue limited series, so I guess they wanted to make sure they had enough characters to get them through 12 issues. But still, 12. I think that's a lot of characters, man.
That is a lot. Right? Yeah. I mean, you're not even doing all the core, you're just the core JLA, you're going to the weird ones.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think you could have lost Arcana. Who else could have been cut from this? Tom Thumb's apparently very important later on, so we want to keep him.
Yeah.
You got to keep Fish Boy. Yeah, but I guess they want to do that thing. He actually plays into the angle later on too, though, so I think you need him. Yeah, so who knows? Maybe all of them are important over the long run.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
And I did like the little backstories we got for them. Those were all pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, they were. It was very efficient how they were done, 1 page on each, and you do get a lot of backstory from them. But again, it is just a lot. 12 is a lot. But,
yeah.
Still very good.
So long.
But I enjoyed it quite a bit. Any other thoughts on Squadron Supreme, Jack, that you'd like to mention?
I think we skipped over. There was a scene where I think Fishboy called the bad guys filthy sons of fishes or something like that.
I don't remember that.
It was weird. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was really good.
Yeah. What would you give it 1 out of 10?
I mean, probably at least an 8.
Yeah, it's a solid 8. I'm actually going to give it a 9 out of respect for Grunwald's premise and concept here. And because it was a year before Watchmen and he set the blueprint for Watchmen, absolutely stolen by Alan Moore. So good job. So just out of respect for Grunwald, I'll give it that extra point. But I really enjoyed this. And going in blind with no concept of what the story was or anything, I thought it was just going to be a typical superhero deal. So the fact that they're aspiring to something greater than that, Very impressive for 1985 Marvel. Very impressive.
I had heard something about them trying to take over, but when they started explaining the whole Overmind thing, I thought that's what that was referring to. They took over the world while they were possessed by this evil Overmind. But no, they decided to take it over again, which is pretty interesting for a concept.
Now, Jack, you usually have your ear to the ground for all the comic book news and whatnot. You love the Marvel stuff, the movies and the TV, especially the TV shows. You can't get enough of She-Hulk. I know that. Is there any talk of Squadron Supreme joining the Marvel MCU at any point?
Not that I've heard of. No, I wonder if it's so close to the DC thing.
Yeah, that's probably it. Well, but Boys and Invincible do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Mark Burnwell's not around to fight them on the rights or something. So
all right, there you go. Squadron Supreme. Highly recommend. Go check it out and read it now before Alan Moore steals it. All right, so Jank, next week it's your choice, your first choice as co-host of Flea Market Fantasy.
I can pretty much guarantee it will not be as good as this comic that we just read today. But I figured, I picked the last time I had to pick, I picked Green Arrow, which was different choice.
I don't like where this is going. I think we're veering into DC territory, but all right, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm gonna get back to my wheelhouse here and pick a Marvel comic. Fallen Angels #5.
Fallen Angels #5. This is the New Mutants.
Yep.
And I remember
some of the X Factor kids.
What year did this come out? Probably around 87?
87, yep.
Look at that, nailed it. When I was a kid, I owned this. And basically the premise is Bobby, Sunspot of the New Mutants, they were having a soccer game, as the kids like to play soccer in the back, the Xavier kids. And doesn't he he gets so mad he injures Cannonball, right? Is that what happens?
And run out of there.
Yeah, and he leaves, and doesn't Warlock go with him?
Yep.
And is there someone else, or is it just those two?
The whole group kind of ends up getting together, but from the New Mutants, I think those are the only two.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember.
Boom Boom's in there. And,
Boom Boom and,
I got Multiple Man, Siren is in there.
Oh, yeah. All right, this will be good. I remember this, yeah. All right.
I think this issue, there is some Moon Boy and a Devil Dinosaur, so we get some monkeys for you.
Yeah, Moon Boy. He's like a monkey.
Yeah.
All right, so Fallen Angels, issue 5 from 1987. That's next week, and our buddy Bob Myers should be here. I'm sure he'll enjoy that. I think he reads the X books. All right, Jake. Now, here's at the end of the show. Mike L used to he had a little catchphrase. He would say, disperse.
Mm-hmm.
And that was nice. It worked for Mike L. And he got that from one of his favorite movies, Grease 2. That's where he got that from.
Yep.
So, but I don't think disperse will work for me because Mike L really sold it. He would yell it, you're like, disperse. And here's another secret of the production. He would yell it, but he would push back in his desk chair. So you'd get like a fade of disperse away from the microphone. A little trick he used to do. But that's a lot of effort. I'm not going to do any of that.
A lot of Foley work.
Yeah. So I need to come up with a catchphrase. Any ideas what my catchphrase could be to end the show?
Well, you could quote one of your favorite movies and just pretend you're Shockma and throw yourself against the door violently.
That's what I was going to do. Oh, I love the movie. For those who don't know, I love the movie Shockma. It's about a baboon that goes around murdering people. And the one phrase I had in mind was, until next time, open the door, Shockma. Something like that,
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if that'll work. Shockma? Or maybe just Shockma. I don't know, something, but I was thinking maybe do something comic book related though. Not necessarily baboon related. Maybe something comic book related. But I can't think of anything good, This is going to take some thought.
Yeah. We could quote one of my favorite quotes we've come across through these books, and smoking crack can't kill you.
From Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Wolfpack, Larry Hama. Yeah, maybe we should find a quote on the LCS show. Jank and our buddy Tuff, they always open the show by giving a quote from the movie we watch. Maybe we should use a quote from the book we read. But
See you next time, you sons of fishes.
Well, I'll give it some thought. But until next time, I guess we'll keep releasing the show on Tuesdays. Does that work? I guess we'll keep that steady. And also, by now I switched the hosting company. So we should be good on Apple and Spotify. I don't know if I want to keep making YouTube videos. I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably diminishing returns, I guess.
Yeah, because
numbers, but
well, yeah, I mean, people watch them, but Mike Yeo has like the subscriptions at Comic Book Syndicate. Like he has people subscribe, and I'm just gonna be putting them up on my YouTube channel. No one listens to watch mine. I might make one or two just to see how it goes, because I was gonna do different things with it. I was gonna put like actually like pages of the book in there as well, not just the cover. So.
That's a lot of work, but
yeah, it is. Yeah. But so I don't know. Maybe we'll make one or two of those. We'll see how it goes. But man, I really need a catchphrase. So all right. Well, until next time, I don't know.